The growing trend in sports nutrition is that every athlete's body is unique. At the Gatorade Sports Science Institute, we are working to help athletes and their influencers better understand these differences so they can better fuel their bodies. GSSI has a variety of tools to accomplish this, from testing the unique attributes of each athlete to nutrition personalization programs and educational outreach. GSSI is striving to make sure athletes and their influencers are more informed about their nutritional needs than ever before. GSSI is also an educational resource for sports health professionals, athletic trainers, strength and conditioning coaches, registered dietitians and sports scientists all turn to GSSI to gain insights into the latest research and strategies that they can put to use with their own athletes. Whether it's in the lab or on the field, online or offline, GSSI is giving athletes and their influencers an invaluable look at how nutrition and hydration can change their game, help them reach their goals, and become the best they can be.
Good day, everyone. Good afternoon to all of you, and welcome to another edition of your Gatorade Sports Science Institute webinar series 2021. Woohoo! Oh yeah. My name is Chicky Reyes, and I'll be your host again for the rest of the afternoon. Be with us about an hour and a half as we talk about, of course, hydration, nutrition, and anything sports, okay? But before we dive into that, for those of you na hindi ko nakapanood, failed to watch our previous two episodes, let's backtrack a bit. 4 weeks ago, we talked about the guide for basic cycling. Okay, for those who, getting into cycling, we spoke about that, about an hour and a half. And then, 2 weeks after, we went into what? Training at home. And we had an NBA guest, Cole Anthony, if you missed it, from the Orlando Magic. And then we took a 2-week break. And right now, we're going to be talking about another topic, okay, that I am so excited about because very close to my heart ito eh. Apart from basketball, I love doing this, okay? I'm sure that you guys will learn a lot from this physical activity because, admittedly, sometimes we take this for granted, this activity for granted. But, okay, little did we know that pag ganyan ng view natin, di natin alam, marami tayong matututunan. We'll learn a lot from training tips, what else, techniques, strategies, when we listen to our guest presenters today and also our guest coaches. Take note, guest coaches, plural. And I'm sure you guys will learn a lot from them so that you can improve and benefit from this episode. So if I were you, please have your papers and your pens ready or your phones ready. All right, take down notes. Think of questions that you might like to ask and fire away later on, not only to our presenters, but also to our guest coaches. Okay? But before we dive into our discussion this afternoon, I'd like to refresh first the memory of our audience, and especially those who are tuning in or watching us for the first time, okay, on the Facebook page of Gatorade. What is GSSI and what is this webinar series all about? Okay, so allow me to dive into that quickly. So GSSI started as Gatorade Exercise Physiology Lab way back in 1985 before it became the Gatorade Sports Science Institute that we know today. And GSSI's long-standing mission is to help athletes and sports enthusiasts globally, okay, optimize their health and performance through research and education in hydration and nutrition science. Now, bringing sports science beyond the lab, GSSI aims to continuously find innovative ways to spread the science of hydration and nutrition para kanino po? To coaches, nutritionists, athletes, and sports communities the world over. And so, in an effort to reach more sports enthusiasts despite obvious limitations, here we are today in the Gatorade Philippines Facebook Live for another GSSI webinar focused on sports and wellness topics led by our scientists and experts. Now, speaking about sports and wellness, in the next few minutes, we will aim to provide you knowledge about, ano ba? Running. Okay, guide to running that would help you do it properly, safely, and to the best benefit that you can get out of it. Okay, of course, we'll try to put everything into an hour and a half or an hour 15 para marami po kayong matutunan. So, what's in it for you guys today for until about 5:30 this afternoon? We have this very loaded lineup for you guys. Okay, allow me to show it to you. First up, running made simple. And if you want to talk about running, it's simple way to do it, pero fun way to do it. We brought here with us the Naksa, Coach Annie De Leon Brown. We'll see her later on. After that, we'll jump into the thermal and fluid demand during endurance running in the heat. And we have our good doctor from Singapore, Dr. Jason Lee, joining us this afternoon as well. And then after that, we'll have our Q&A with our speakers. So please make sure that you load up that comment box below when you try to ask your questions later on. And then finally, we'll have an open discussion with our guest athletes slash coaches in Coach Rio de la Cruz and Coach Jamie Pizarro. Ganda, no? Very loaded third episode. And with that, would like to invite all of you, as mentioned below, to send your questions regarding these topics by typing away later on as you listen to our presenters, and would be glad to bring them out. The questions that we'll be able to choose, we'll bring them out during the Q&A. And for the questions that we will be chosen, I'll flash later on. Surprise pa yan, ha? Tago ko muna. But I'll show you the prizes that you'll win. But it's a Gatorade bottle, bike bottle, a pair of nice Gatorade Vamos socks. Mamaya, pakita ko sa inyo yan, ha? And also, my personal favorite, the Gatorade backpack that has endless pockets. Ha? Oh, ang dami talaga. You can put your bottle there, your shoes, everything, change of clothes, even your pet. I'm just kidding. Don't put your pet inside your backpack, okay? So I'll show that to you guys later on. And for those of you who would like to receive the certificate of attendance, importante rin yan, please make sure that you stay with us until the end of this live video or live show natin, because we will be flashing a QR code at the end of the show for you to sign up and also answer a quick survey para makuha niyo yung certificate of attendance. And finally, please watch out for our fun interaction later on for a chance to win more Gatorade products that we will be asking. I will be asking questions. Pag masagot niyo yon, makakakuha kayo ng premyo rin. And of course, our social media team will be getting in touch with you pag kayo nanalo on how to claim the prizes. Okay? So, game na! Our guide, beginner's guide to running, dun sa mga gustong tumakbo, will be introducing our first speaker for today. Grabe! Loaded ito! Allow me to read a few, okay? Philippine National Triathlon Team High Performance Coach, NAX. Certified Level 2 Triathlon Coach, World Triathlon. Asia Tri Coach of the Year in 2015. 3 times National Triathlon Champion. 2 times SEA Games Athlete for Cycling and Triathlon. 3 times Ironman World Championships finisher. And also, she is the known coach of the Next Step Try at ang foster mother ng the Next Week Try, all the way from Santa Rosa, Laguna, the Filipina Iron Woman and the champion triathlete. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Coach Annie De Leon Brown. Woohoo!
Hi everyone! Good afternoon!
Coach, alam mo, naghihintay na sila sa'yo, so I will have that chat with you later on. In the meantime, I'd like you to go ahead, take it away, and I'm sure our friends are ready with their paper and pen to listen to your tips and to your presentation. Go ahead, Coach Annie.
Hi. Sorry, I think there's a little bit of a lag. Okay. Well, I'll go on with the slides. So, as you can see from the title, it's called Running Made Simple. And medyo papasimplehin natin yung mga, minsan kasi marami tayo masyadong technical terms na naririnig about running, and I'm gonna try to make it simpler for everyone to understand. Everyone can run. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, we have here the 4 aspects we can work on to improve our running. First of all, we have the movement. So the running movement or the run technique. So we will go through that later. And these are the other aspects. We won't touch on them as much, but I can give you tips on how to work on all of those. So we have technique, movement, and then endurance, strength, and speed. So most of the slides will be about the first part, okay? But endurance is something we develop over time, and the same with strength and speed. If we have a program or a regimen that we follow on a regular basis. So we'll proceed to the next slide so we can discuss more about this running technique or movement. So madali lang, no? We have a checklist from head to toe. We can go through them, and when you're running, you focus on just one aspect at a time. For maybe a couple of minutes, you just concentrate on your breathing, and then maybe for one whole session, you just focus on your cadence. And then we develop your running technique or your movement in small increments, focusing on one thing at a time, and then slowly everything will come together. Okay, kasi hindi natin pwedeng imadali yan, but I'll give you a run through on all of those things that we need to look out for. But just letting you know that we don't need to think about all these things at once para hindi naman tayo na overwhelm when we start running, especially for those who are just planning to take up the sport. Okay? So, breathing, cadence, posture, head position, shoulders, hands, and foot strike. We'll go through all of these. So we'll check your form from head to toe. We'll go to the next slide. So first, breathing. Okay? Maraming nalilito dyan. Pero simple lang yan. We can establish a pattern with our footsteps. Kung hindi nyo alam kung paano yung proper breathing cycle, we can think of this. This is the number 1. We need to exhale more than inhale. Kasi karaniwan sa atin, when we start getting tired, we kind of are like become more greedy with taking in air, right? But actually, that is counterproductive. We need to blow out our excess air. So how do we establish a pattern? So one of the most important things about running and endurance sport in general is getting into a good rhythm. And the best way to establish that is with your cadence and with your breathing pattern. So we'll start with the breathing pattern. They actually go hand in hand. So what you can do is count your footsteps. The longer the breathing cycle, the lower your heart rate will stay. Okay, remember that. So what we want to do is control our heart rate by controlling our breathing cycle. Bakit kailangan? Why is it important to control our heart rate? Obviously, if your heart rate shoots up immediately, especially if you just started running and then your breathing is so rapid, for sure your heart rate will shoot up too quickly. And when that happens, of course, there's more energy expenditure. So what we want to do is control our heart rate as much as we can to prolong it at a lower BPM. So when we have a longer breathing cycle, then we can control our heart rate at the same time. So that's why, if we can, maybe we can do it. This is not a set pattern. You need to find your individual rhythm, so to speak. But an example could be you do 3 to 5 steps, exhale, and then 2 steps, inhale. Okay? So that's just an example. And obviously, the longer the run, if you're doing a lower intensity run, then it will be a longer breathing cycle. So for those who are doing an hour and longer, then you should really make your breathing cycle slower. But for those who are racing a 100-meter dash, for example, the breathing pattern is 1 step inhale, 1 step exhale. Obviously, your event is going to finish really quickly. So for most of us here, I think what we plan to do is just running for fitness, or even running a 5K or a 10K, right? So what we want to do, so those are considered long distance runs. So what we want to do is establish a slower breathing cycle when we do those longer distances. And every now and then we can do like to release out excess air every couple of minutes. I'm sure you've heard some runners doing that if you've joined the fun runs. Okay, next. So cadence, as I said, the best way to establish rhythm when you're running is with your breathing and with your cadence, or strides per minute. So that's what the SPM here stands for. A good baseline is around 90 steps per minute if you're counting 1 foot. So in 60 seconds, if you're counting, for example, only the landing of your right foot, then what you want to aim for is around 90, okay? 90 steps within the 60 seconds. But this changes per individual. So this is just to give you an idea. If you have longer legs, then you can go a little bit like maybe 86. If you have shorter legs, which most Asians do, like if you want to run faster, then we have to work on a higher stride rate or a higher SPM. Maybe we can do 92 to 94, something like that, okay? But this is something you can work on. If this is the first time you've heard of it, you can do it in small increments, okay? Maybe we can do it for 30 seconds first. So if your target is 90, for example, within 30 seconds, what you want to have is 45 counts, okay? For each of your right foot landing. So, and then you can later do 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and before long, it takes a couple of weeks, but before long, you'll find that you can get used to this high stride rate. Why is it important? The other reason is mathematically the way to be faster is stride rate times stride length. Okay? Of course, we can work on lengthening your stride, but this is something that there is some limitation also. Again, if you have shorter legs. So the most efficient way, especially for Asians, is to really develop a good cadence. Some ways you can improve on that are you can have playlists. I have some playlists on my Spotify that are around 180 BPM. So because I have shorter legs, I sometimes put 190 or even 200 sometimes, okay? So, and then the metronome, some tools you can use are, it's a beeper. If you go to some running stores or sports stores, you can see that there are people who sell metronomes. It goes toot, toot, toot. So you can kind of copy that with every landing, okay? It might be a little bit annoying for some, but you have to, if you want to really work on your cadence, then it is a really good tool. And then the sticks, the running sticks you can hold while you're running, and it really makes you feel your tempo, because the hands, as you will find out later, is a very good way to establish a good beat as well, using your hands. We'll go to the next slide. I'll talk about the hands more later. So posture. So you have heard about the running lean if you have been running for a while. The most important thing for me is you have to align, run tall, okay? Do not slouch. Do not look down, okay? The lean will change relative to what distance you are running. So if you are doing a sprint, then you will have a more aggressive lean forward. But if you are doing a longer distance event like a marathon, it's very hard to sustain that. So I would highly recommend for people who are running longer distances to stay more upright, okay? Stay more upright than really an aggressive lean. If ever you lean, just really 5 degrees or even less, okay? So because if you lean forward all the time for 42K, I don't think, only very few elite runners can hold that technique. And then it also changes. So posture, the lean and the foot strike are related. So if you are a sprinter like Usain Bolt is really leaning forward, then the foot strike, the landing, the initial impact will be more on the forefoot. But if you are upright, then it's more midfoot. The more important thing, as opposed to where you're landing, is you should land under the center of gravity, under your body, okay? What we don't want to do is you break, your leaning is too far back, and then you break your landing, okay? So the most important thing is when you're running, you run tall, aligned, and as much as possible, engage your core. Okay, next slide. So the head is important. I always, if you've run some sessions with me, this is my favorite thing to shout to my athletes. Look straight ahead, don't look down. Okay? So, alam na alam ng mga athletes ko yan, because the moment you look down, what happens? You lose your alignment. You stay at a neutral position. You don't need to tip your head back. Just a neutral position, eyes looking straight ahead. Whether you're running uphill or downhill or flat surface, look straight ahead, because it changes everything else. It affects your running form and also your psychology. See? You run tall, you feel tall, you look straight ahead. But if you're stooping, you're slouching, you're looking down, it doesn't feel good, right? You want to feel powerful. The moment your eyes look down, it's kind of like it affects your mindset also. Okay, so head neutral position. Next slide. All right, the shoulders just relaxed, not too high and tense. Remember, the shoulders mirror your hips. So people who have tight shoulders and inhibited arm swing have very tight movement for their leg swing as well, because their shoulders are tight. It means their hips are tight, okay? So low and relaxed. And also, let's minimize the twisting movements. What does that mean? Wala yung masyadong side to side, okay? Of course, there will be some, it's not gonna be like super square all the time. Just minimal twisting movements that you're not really like facing the other side already. And you can control this also with your arms. So next. Okay, so the hands, if you can see there, I put potato chips. Also, if you've run with me, this is something I always use as imagery. Imagine you're running with two potato chips inside both hands, right? What we want is your hands do not crush those potato chips. If you crush the potato chips, that means you're too tense. But we don't want to drop them also. We don't want to drop. Baon yun eh. Baon yun for later. So like, we just want to keep the potato chip in our hands. So firm, not tense. So in between, try to align your hands. So if this is your forearm, just try to align it. Again, this is not a set thing. Every person will have different biomechanics, but this is just a guide. So you try to align your forearm with your wrist. And then, again, as I mentioned before, setting the beat with your hands will really help dictate the beat of your leg swing as well, or your cadence. And again, the arm carriage, so not too high, not too low, but again, this varies per individual. We want it around 90 degrees, but if you can see our example here on the screen, he has a little bit of a higher arm carriage, and that's okay. So this is very individual, but what we want to avoid is crossing the center line. We don't want to cross the center line. If this is the center of your body, just keep it on each side, right? And at the end of the arm swing, the hands can brush your hips. But again, if your arm carriage is higher, like Mr. Fercasares here on our screen, then the side of your torso, it will brush the side of your torso. We don't want a punching movement. Okay, what we want is actually, imagine you're elbowing somebody behind you. Okay, that is the movement of the hands and the arms. So imagine you're elbowing somebody behind you, not punching somebody in front of you. Okay, that's a different sport. Boxing yon. Okay, so next. So here we go, foot strike. So you will see many different debates online. My opinion as a coach and in my experience, we do not have a set. This is not set in stone. Depending on what distance you do, what biomechanics, and what what you've been used to. Some of you have been some people like Coach Rio. He's a trackster. He has been running since he was a little kid, so he will have a different running style from somebody who just took up running maybe in their 30s or 40s, and that's okay. Both can be good. So depending on your training or your biomechanics, if you are more of a gazelle type runner like Coach Rio, then you will be more mid-foot to forefoot strike. Okay, but if you are somebody who does this for it's for weekend warriors or fun runs only, then that's very hard to sustain for most people. And this is again related to also your posture. So also with the posture, we if we are upright, then it's really more of a midfoot and sometimes even a heel strike. The more important thing again is do not break yourself. You want to land under your body, okay? Near the center of gravity. If you land in front of your body, you are braking yourself. See? So when we land, we also want to direct the landing, rolling. So you don't want to destroy the momentum from the drive down. When your feet land, you roll from midfoot to toe to push off. Okay, you don't kill the momentum by thudding, and just also that's very high impact and bad for your joints, your knees, etc. So when we land, we want to roll and we want to have quiet feet. Okay, my coach told me you can listen to the runners who are the most quiet. The quietest feet are the people who will get tired less. Okay, they last longer during the race, and the people with the loudest landing will get tired soonest. So we want to lessen the impact, quiet feet, fast feet. Okay, next. And here are some of the workouts that we can do. So here are 5 run sessions, okay? If you are a beginner, then 3 sessions a week would be okay. And then if you are an intermediate runner, then 4 sessions a week would be okay. If you're an advanced, intermediate to advanced runners, 5 sessions is if you've been running for a couple of years already, then these are my 5 recommendations. Number 1 is the long run. So long run means this is a zone 2, okay, or you can do this, we call it conversational pace. So it's something that is not high effort, not high intensity, and you are comfortable. You can converse. If you're running with somebody, you can talk for prolonged periods in complete sentences. So you can monitor with your breath that you're doing an easy effort that you can sustain for an hour or more. So the long run is relative to if you are a beginner or an advanced runner, then the length of time differs also. And also depending on what phase you are in your training program. So maybe if you're a beginner, a long run can just be 45 minutes. But later on, for those who are advanced runners, as you know, a regular long run would be 90 minutes to 2 hours. Okay? And then the tempo run. The tempo run is something that it's more race specific. For example, if you're training for a 10K run, so you have a tempo run. First you warm up. So you warm up first. All these run sessions, you have to start easily first with the warm up. You can't just go hard, okay? Even if the main set, what we call the main set, is it requires more effort. So first you do a warm up, and then the tempo just means you are going at an effort that is close to your race pace. So you can start with 5 minutes doing race pace, and then 2 sets of 5 minutes, 2 sets of 10 minutes, and then later on you can do 20 minutes worth, 30 minutes worth of race-like effort, and then you can cool down. Okay, so it's always warm up and then the set and then cool down, because it's important to cool down, to settle down your heart rate, and you can easily start the next run session not too tired. So the fartlek run, again, warm up, and then the fartlek is a Swedish word meaning speed play. So the fartlek just means you play with the speed. You have different speeds for your main set, meaning you go fast, you go easy, you go fast, you go easy. So this can be seconds, minutes. For example, a fartlek run set can be 10 times, 1 minute fast, 1 minute easy. So if you are just starting to run, it can be just 30 seconds, for example. 5 times, 30 seconds fast, and then 1 minute easy. So if you're just starting to run, the recovery or the easy part can be longer. And then if you're getting fitter and fitter, the recovery part can be 1:1. For example, the 5 times 2 minutes fast, 2 minutes easy. So 1:1. And then later on, as some coaches do, like I do this myself, nearing the competition, the recovery is shorter. So for example, 5 times 2 minutes fast, 1 minute easy. So you can do that. So fartlek just means any of the speed we normally do for the fartlek is a little bit faster than race pace, okay? Because it's only for a shorter period. And these all contribute to your run speed later, because we can all put it together. That's the beauty of all these runs if you do them regularly. And again, after the main set, you do a cool down. And then the recovery run is beautiful for like some people who want to just develop a good aerobic engine or develop their capacity for running and add more volume and not push too much every time. We don't need to run hard for every session. At the same time, we don't want to just run slow for every session. So it should be a good mix. The recovery run just provides you with more mileage, and it's not junk. Okay, it's really integral to have some recovery run sessions also as part of your program. And we can do this. This is only, again, very, very low intensity, zone 1 to 2, or conversational pace again, and for a shorter time, not like the long run. The long run is maybe 1 hour or longer, but the recovery run is maybe 30 minutes, 45 minutes max. For some, 20 minutes, that's okay. So anything between 20 to 45 minutes easily, really, really easily, that's a recovery session. And then hilly run. So the best and most efficient way to develop power and strength for your running, so this is run specific strengthening, is to run with hills. So we this is one of our bread and butter workouts in our squad. We do 10 times 100 meters up the hill at a good speed, and then recover going back down. If you're a beginner, it's okay to walk. You can walk or jog going back down the hill and then go up again. So you're doing this only, yes. Okay. So this is just for a really like short burst. But if you do this over a couple of weeks, months, and even years, this is really like the most powerful session for your strength development. Okay, next slide. Okay, we're in our last slide, and some general tips for running. There are no secrets or nor magic potions. So if you want to take up running, or if you want to continue on running, you need to remember to have fun. Remember why you started doing it. You manage your energy. Sometimes we forget that we have other. We are not. We a lot of us have family, work, and other stresses. Okay, and running provides some fatigue, obviously. So you have to balance it out. We have to do something sustainable so that we can prolong our running career or running lifestyle. And find your style, find your rhythm. I put this in because, again, I went through all the running form or technique checklist, but again, you need to develop your own individual style. Okay, that the technique, those are the fundamentals, but don't compare yourself to your friend who has a different body type or has a different height. You need to develop your own style and rhythm. And this is the best advice I can give you. Consistency and frequency is better than, like, maybe you run super long for one session today and then you're super tired. The next session you do is a week and a half from now. I would rather that you do 20 to 30-minute runs only if you can do it more often. So 3 times a week, shorter is better than once a week, even if you did 2 hours. Okay? And then breakthroughs come over a long period of time. Be patient, but you can compare your fitness from today to 2 months from now to 6 months from now. You will notice that you will improve in small increments, but it will be super rewarding. And normally, after 3 years, you're a totally changed runner. You're different from when you started. So improvement in small increments. That's it for my talk. Chiki?
Thank you very much, Coach Annie De Leon Brown. And yung last slide ni Coach Annie, find your style, find your rhythm. Magaling ako dyan, style. yan yung meron ko lang. But kidding aside, I hope yung mga papers niyo na puno ng notes. Dahil ang dami sinare ni Coach Annie. And believe you me, if we just have more time, marami pang masishare si Coach Annie dyan. Now, she also mentioned, make it fun. Running is supposed to be fun. And since it's fun, afternoon today, quick shout outs. Okay, we have a lot of people, over 1,000 viewers already. Woohoo! 1.1 na chinek ko na dito. Sir Mikey, thank you. Joining us, of course, Sir Mikey, Miss Melai, thank you very much for being with us. Quick shout outs. Mark Ke, be careful of that potato chips when you run with with Fair. Rafi Silerio, yep, kalma lang. You have to be calm when you run. And Coach Vanessa Agdon, forget the mad face when you run, Coach. You should be smiling and enjoying yung time when you're running. Okay, so make sure you put your comments down there, because if I get a chance to do those shout outs, I will do so. And later on at the end of the show, stay with us, because if you get the right answers to our special questions, eto na, as I mentioned earlier, you're gonna win cool prizes from Gatorade. Baliktad pa yata. Sorry, eto, Gatorade in partnership with Vamos. You're gonna give this a surprise to you guys. Ano pa? Bike bottle. Woo! Yes, because nothing beats Gatorade. Yep. And then my personal favorite, hala, ito na. Ayan, no? Gatorade backpack. Okay, ang daming pockets po nito. And when that big race in October, wink wink, malapit na yan, you need this, okay, as your transition bag. So make sure that you stay with us till the end of the show. Please type in your questions dyan sa comment box na yan. And kung trip nyo lang, no, mag-shout out and mag-hello sa amin, please do so. And I'll say hello to all of you. Okay? Now, so Coach Annie will park her muna. Later on, we'll bring her out for the Q&A. Up next, we have GSSI advisor for APAC with a PhD in exercise physiology, a fellow of the American College of Sports Medicine, and a member of the Professional in Nutrition for Exercise and Sport. Also a commando officer. Wow. Commando officer in the Singapore Armed Forces. And he will be talking about thermal and fluid demand during endurance running in the heat. So many accolades, so many achievements. But if you listen to him later on, mabibilib kayo lalo, okay? Because ang dami niyang ituturo sa atin. Lots of things that we can learn from our guest today. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to bring in as our next speaker, Dr. Jason Lee. Woo!
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I hope everyone is keeping well. Very difficult time. I know my heart goes out to every one of you. Yeah. So I hope the tips that I'm going to give is beyond just doing a good run, but taking good care of yourself as you continue to keep fit, rest well, eat well, and exercise well. This is the title of my talk. You could go to the next slide. That's right, and I hope, please sit tight because I'm going to rock the boat. I might change some of your perspectives on thermal strain, fluid demands during endurance runs. I trust, we have some time at the end so I can address some of the questions and hopefully debunk, the myths that you have. Next, please. Okay, we are right in the midst of the ongoing Olympic Games. And before I go further, I want to say a big congratulations once again for that Olympic gold medal. I presume we have a party after this. And that's a great achievement, remarkable. And I always wanted to be an elite athlete, but I think I can only hold potato chips in my hands. The attention on heat stress on recent years, you probably read from the news, is partly because of these ongoing games. Some athletes are going to be exposed to the highest and the hottest temperatures ever experienced. Not one of the highest. Now look at the bar here. This is not the actual temperature. This is the feels like temperature. It can feel at times as hot as 40 degrees Celsius. And I already saw some reports coming from the tennis courts that some athletes are really struggling with the heat. Next slide, please. You agree with me that we are seeing more and more of such headlines. I really hope we don't get numbed to these headlines because it's again beyond sports, as climate change is real and is happening. And I just hope that we will find evidence, solutions, interventions to heat-proof ourselves, to continue to keep well, in this case, exercise, so that we can keep our sanity in check. But most of us are unaware how detrimental heat, especially living in our context in Singapore, in Philippines, we sometimes think that it's always been hot, it's getting hotter and a bit hotter, so what's the big deal? It is a big deal, which I will explain to you why so. Next slide, please. Okay, the first thing I want to emphasize is you ought to know the difference between heat stress and heat strain, because they are not the same. Briefly, heat stress is the effect of the environment on the person. And this includes the clothing that you are wearing, the kind of exercise, the intensity and duration of exercise that you are on. While important, climatic heat stress is not the sole contributor to the resultant heat loads. We call the latter the heat strain. So when it's hot, it doesn't mean that it's doom. You can think about your clothing, you can think about the exercise intensity and the duration. What we care more about is actually the heat strain. Because heat strain, on the other hand, describe how you actually respond to the overall heat stress. Climatic heat stress, the clothing, your exercise. And therefore, heat strain is the overall net load within your body. That is what we care more about. Got it? If not, I make it more concise. No, heat strain is essentially the resultant heat load you experience from the weather, from the clothing, and from the work. And this is what we care more about. Next slide, please. Okay, this slide is technical, but it's very important. If somebody comes to you and say they have a good solution to beat the heat, the first thing you ought to ask is, where exactly is that solution you propose targeting? Is it causing a reduction before I start exercising? Attenuates the heat strain while I exercising? Or is it going to increase my tolerance to heat? Because if it can reduce, attenuate, and extend Look at the y-axis, you are essentially expanding your own heat capacity. And there's a very strong association when you compete in a hot environment. The one who start cool, the one who can attenuate the heat strain and can finish at high core temperature. High core temperature. So the fitter you are, you can actually tolerate a high core temperature. And those who can do so has the highest chance of winning that race. Next slide, please. So this is the order how you should prepare and harness a proven array of evidence-based. I will keep on emphasizing that the whole crux is evidence-based. There's a lot of solutions, claim solutions. You must always check the evidence, be critical. And this here, what is being shown here is a proven array of techniques or solutions to beat the heat. And this slide also informs how each of these strategy works in terms of expanding your ability to tolerate the heat. Remember in the earlier slide, I talked about reduction, attenuation, and extension. So looking at this slide, sorry, I didn't come with a magic pill. I look at the one on the left, aerobic fitness conditioning. It takes all three: reduction, attenuation, and extension. So in your next run, next workout, in your next interval, do it with a smile, because you are harnessing the most effective way to beat the heat. The focus of my talk will be on hydration. It still works, but don't just go away and think hydration is your only tool to beat the heat here. But I will just focus on one of the 5 proven strategies in my talk. Next slide, please. So these are the known limitations in terms of exercising well or performing well in the hot environment. But for the sake of my talk, 20 minutes or so, I'll focus on heat stress and fluid balance here. Finding that sweet spot here. The principle doesn't go wrong. Usually things that is too much or too little, usually they are not good. Except love. Love you can have as much as possible. But usually harness this principle. You want to find that sweet spot. Anything that's too much or too little, usually it's not so good. Next slide, please. So I'll just quickly show you this slide. This is a half marathon race done in Singapore. Pretty much the climatic conditions you experience in Philippines. 21 kilometers. See the number of lines that cross this usually assume at a very high level of heat strain, 40 degrees Celsius. This is half marathon. In the next slide, you see a full marathon. First thing I want to debunk is it doesn't mean that the longer you run, the risk of getting heat injured is higher. In fact, races like 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers, in my opinion, 21 kilometers are the perfect races for you to produce a very high production of heat, high level of heat strain, and therefore those are races that you should be concerned of. As you go to 42 kilometers in this case, heat stress actually decreases, but you have another kind of risk. We call it either severe dehydration or overhydration. Next slide, please. You can skip this slide. So I hope sweat evaporation is the main avenue of heat loss. The key word here is evaporation. Sweating alone doesn't do much in terms of losing heat. So don't laugh and scorn of your body next time of he or she start to sweat earlier and profusely. That is a sign of aerobic fitness. The one that is fitter will sweat earlier and probably sweat more. And we know that excessive dehydration can affect both performance and health. Again, I don't want to take the message too far. The keyword here is excessive dehydration. If you're a gym goer running half an hour, 45 minutes in the gym, stay chill. That kind of dehydration, you'll be okay. You can even go without any hydration for that half an hour run in the gym. But if you're a hardcore runner, excessive dehydration, and it depends who you are. There is no one fixed number. Then you might affect your performance, and in worst scenario, affect your health too. But the problem is, it is not so straightforward. We all sweat very differently. Next slide, please. So here you see many dots. On the y-axis is the sweat rates. On the x-axis is the finishing time, or in this case, the position The dots represent an individual here. And these are the 4 determinants of sweat loss. I can tell you this group of individuals are relatively homogeneous, a group of well-trained soldiers that finish a half marathon in Singapore in order of 90 minutes or 1 hour and 45 minutes. So relatively homogeneous. No? We made them wear the same attire in the same race, relatively the same exercise intensity because of their VO2 max and their running speeds. But look at the dots, it varies. You know there is no one size that fit all. Someone can sweat as little less than liter per hour, and the other guy could sweat more than 2 liters per hour. So I hope this slide is clear. Even if the 4 key determinants of sweatings are pretty much controlled, humans sweat very differently. Next slide, please. So we know the sweats very differently. We know dehydration in excess amounts can affect both performance and health. I'll show you some data. It's more about hypohydration perhaps than dehydration, and you will see some data that over drinking can lead to this condition called exercise-associated hyponatremia. Hyponatremia means low blood sodium concentrations. Next slide, please. I could sit 30 minutes just to get all the gist out of this very rich slide, but I just want to mention 2 points here. Often we heard about this -2% body mass that is bad for performance and health. In the design, in this case, obviously it's a once-off. We cannot look at whether if they get less dehydrated, they will run faster. But I can clearly say that in the order of -2%, in this case, there is no consequences to acute health. So don't get too carried away to overdrink. That's my first message here, because if you look at the dots above that 0 line, those individuals actually put on body mass at the end of a race. That is amazing. These individuals must have subscribed, the role of the importance of hydration to another level. I asked the race organizers to award these runners 2 t-shirts and 2 medals for their tenacity to drink so much that they put on body mass at the end of a race. Next slide, please. But this is no joke, 135 to 145. This is your blood sodium concentration. Clinically, within this zone, we consider good to go, normal natremia, ideal condition. Above 145, we'll diagnose you as dehydration. Below 135, there are signs of dilution in your blood causing low blood sodium, most probably due to water intoxication. And look at when we compile these casualties in the medical tents in Singapore, we actually saw more cases of hyponatremia, giving us the impression that these runners probably feared they get heat injury, overdrank, and therefore swing themselves from one end of the fluid imbalance, dehydration, to overhydration in this case. So be careful, don't overdrink. It can be equally or more dangerous. Next slide, please. I will briefly touch on, these are very good evidence-based recommendations how one should drink before and after exercise. Then I'll end my talk with talking something more controversial in terms of how much one should drink during exercise. So quickly, you drink very slowly 4 hours before the event based on your body mass. Continue to drink slowly, and if no urine is produced or the urine is dark or highly concentrated, take some small amount of salted snacks or sodium containing foods at meals. We also helped to stimulate thirst and also retains the fluids that you consume. So very evidence-based, I would highly recommend. Next slide, please. And you don't need sophisticated tools to assess whether you are hypohydrated, meaning beginning the event already dehydrated. So here are some good practical tools. There's no marker of itself provides enough evidence for hypohydration, but the combination of any two of these self-assessment markers means dehydration is probably likely. And if there's a presence of all these 3 markers, it says probably hypohydration is very likely. So do a simple check. You need a weighing scale, look at the color of your urine, and ask yourself, are you thirsty? Next slide, please. So likewise, in terms of after exercise, hints, there's some question coming out afterwards from the quiz from this slide. So do pay attention. How much you should drink in ballpark. If you got the next event coming out, for every kg of body mass loss, you want to drink about 1.5 liters of fluid. It's not because there will be an immediate diuresis, you will lose more fluid and therefore you have to replace a little bit more. But this is on the proviso that you are racing almost immediately in the coming hours. Yeah, for weekend warriors, those who exercise a few times a week, chill. Yeah, you can't afford not to rush to replace these 1.5 liters per kg body mass. No. These are for the hardcore ones. And obviously, the aggressiveness depends on speed that you need to accomplish that rehydration at the magnitude of the deficit. And the good rule of thumb is drink over time to maximize fluid retention, because you do not want the acute dilution, for example, and then your body will react by secreting the fluid excessively. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the fun bit. So for those who are really following the international guidelines of hydration, you probably will see these two guidelines. The one very, very objective, giving you the number and avoid going beyond -2%. And the other one just said drink ad libitum. And when you're thirsty, you just drink accordingly. At times, readers find that they are contradicting, although I will show you some data for you to judge whether they are contradicting or complementing. Next slide, please. So again, these are 4 trials, same individuals. The top 2 lines were individuals that reported at the trial day dehydrated before they commenced the exercise. And the bottom 2 lines essentially are the same individuals who begin euhydrated, means they were not made to go through a dehydration phase. And very obviously, you find that you begin exercise hypohydrated, means in real life, dark urine concentration, probably thirst sensation, drop body mass loss. Then you find that within that scenario, if you don't drink, you pay the price significantly with the high rise in body core temperature. And that itself has huge implications for both health and performance. But look at the bottom 2 lines. When the same individuals were hydrated at the start, even if they didn't drink during exercise up to 90 minutes, the consequences are almost minimum. So it shows the importance of your start states. That's one point you should take away. Next slide, please. You saw this slide earlier. I showed you that there are different dots represent different individuals. But in real, most of us don't replace almost even half of what we sweat during exercise. In this case, we measured how much these runners rehydrated or took on the fluids. On average, about 20%. So 80% were not being replaced, about 20%. So if this is how tolerable fluid ingestions is usually in running, we can't force people to drink too much, because it's not all about completing a race with beautiful physiology. Most individuals want to win the race. I will emphasize that point later. So take this point, most of us could not drink and match how much we sweat during exercise. Next slide, please. But this slide shows that if you have the ability and discipline to drink more than how much you would normally do, then perhaps you have a good chance in attenuating the physiological strain. In this case, your body heat strain, which most probably will result in an enhanced outcome. So drinking during exercise does help, but you must drink enough to have that effect. If I pack that 20% in the earlier slide on this graph, there's no difference between the no fluid trials and the small fluid trial. The only 2 trials that begin to show any impactful, meaningful difference is when individuals begin to replace in the order of 50% of what they lose during exercise. So again, I'm not saying that do not drink during exercise. In fact, I say you should, but if you want to get the maximum physiological benefit, you need to drink more. But hey, guys, it is not so straightforward, right? You know that it's a cost to pay when you drink. You might need to decelerate, fight for the aliquot of drink, and accelerate. So these are all important things that you should note here if you want a good timing and not just a good physiology. Next slide, please. This slide Yeah, next please. This slide is dedicated to the hardcore runners here, like Coach Annie and the like, who race very competitively. These are the elite runners who finish the race, it's all within sub 3 hours. And look at the degree of dehydration. It gives a clue that when you are highly aerobically fit, perhaps you can tolerate a higher degree of dehydration. So that is a good principle, but is that -3, -4%? We don't know. Measure it within yourself. Next slide, please. So taken as a whole, I don't think the two international guidelines are contradicting each other. In fact, I think they are quite complementary. Yes, very much to do with your pre-exercise hydration states and your ability to drink during exercise. Remember, I said that earlier, many of us race in hope to attain a good timing, not just for good physiology. So you want to find that sweet spot that you drink enough to attenuate the physiology to get the maximum gain, but not overdo it that you'll be losing time drinking. And in worst case, if you really overdo it, you saw those charts and you might end up in the medical tent being overhydrated. We call that water intoxication. Next slide. So here is my conclusions. Very short presentation, but I hope you saw some direct evidence collected from this part of the world that as the race distance increases, heat strain decreases and the risk of water intoxication increases. So look at that relationship, that inverse relationship. I show some data to prove that pre-hydration state is important, and to a certain degree, it determines the impact on subsequent hydration during exercise. And finally, in my concluding slides, it's important to drink. And if you want to get the more out of it, then perhaps you need to train harder than the usual 20% that typical athletes would consume. Work towards a higher amount of replacement, but not overdo it, because the physiological benefits from drinking needs to be weighed against the time loss in doing so. All right. Next slide, please. I think that is the end. Thank you so much for your attention.
Wow, thank you very much, Dr. Jason Lee. And I'm going to give you a virtual round of applause here together with all our viewers. And I'd like to bring back in Coach Annie De Leon Brown. Together with Dr. Jason Lee, we'll have our Q&A. As mentioned, please do type your questions. If we get to choose your question, you're going to go home or going to win a prize from Gatorade. Okay, so Dr. Jason Lee, I have this slight request. If you could kindly move a bit to the center of your camera, because a lot of people
okay?
watching saying, yeah, you're such a good-looking man, and you should be at the center of your camera so that people will be enjoying the good looks of Dr. Lee. That's fine. Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect, Dr. Jason Lee. Okay, so we have some questions here already from our viewers, and I'll start with you, Dr. Jason. We'll post a question here, and I'll read it. What kind of adjustments in hydration and nutrition should beginner Filipino runners do with the sudden changes in weather that can abruptly happen with a certain training period? Here in the Philippines, Doc Jason, you go out for a run, it's humid, it's hot, and all of a sudden, in the middle of your 10K run, it suddenly rains. So it's very unpredictable. So any tips on how beginner runners, Filipino runners, could adjust in terms of hydration and nutrition?
Yes, I have, some mentioned in my slides, but I will emphasize again, first know what is your training objective and what is the demands on that day, and plan. Don't go with the flow. If you know that is a certain race, you have done it before, you know how much you sweat, weigh yourself before and after, how much you should drink. So that is the pre. But I think your question is, okay, all's good, I'm out there, suddenly the weather changed. What should I do? I think for beginner runners, there is always another day to train hard. If the weather is drastically changed, alter your pace accordingly. If you need to slow down, do so. Take more rest, do so. Yeah, because unlike compared to the experienced athletes, the behavior response to a changing heat stress is weaker in beginning runners. Some are so motivated and say, I don't care. That is my plan. My coach says so. 10 degrees higher, I don't care. I will just run myself. That is what we don't want. So take care of yourself, adjust the pace based on how you feel, and there's always another day, to do that pace based on your original plan.
I like the answer, Dr. Jason. So it's really the key is adaptation, right? It changes, change with it, and adapt to it, and enjoy your running exercise. Love that, Doc Jason.
Yeah, if
I
if
jumped to
if I can
Go
jump
ahead.
in, just one more point. Bear in mind that again, if the objective of the training session is just to stress your body, there's actually some science to prove that actually it's not a bad thing. If the sun is coming out a bit more aggressive, you run a bit slower, the resultant strain that you induce to your body is pretty much the same. Some even say that it could be more efficient. Instead of 2 hours run in a cooler environment, now I do 90 minutes in the hotter environment. The resultant training effect could be the same.
I love it. I love picking your brains, Doc Jason. Coach Annie, I jump to you. What are the benefits or advantages of running as compared to other exercises for beginners? And this is a very important question, Coach Annie, especially during the time of the pandemic, right? Because a lot of people are looking for different ways to exercise. So your thoughts on that, or your answer on that, Coach Annie?
Yes, I'm glad somebody asked this because, whatever sport you may be focusing on, whether you're doing volleyball, basketball, badminton, boxing, or any other sport, running can help condition you. Okay, so that's number one. Or for me, during this pandemic, the best thing about running is it's portable. You can do it anywhere. You can do it in front of your house, and it's cheap. You don't need a gym membership. You don't need some high-tech equipment. Maybe you need to invest in a good pair of running shoes, and that's about it. So that's for me is really key in starting a sport. You don't really want to spend so much initially, especially if you're not sure, or maybe you don't even have enough money. Everyone's having a hard time at the moment, right? To invest in a lot. This is a good sport to get into if you are you have budget constraints. Okay, so apart from those, this is something you can enjoy with your
Mm-hmm.
friends and family, or if you're a loner, if you like to be on if you like to do things by yourself, if you're introverted, this is something you will easily enjoy on your own. Like for me, I love doing my runs by myself. Of course, I'm happy to run with my friends. I have group sessions. I coach run sessions. But the time I spend just running by myself, especially now, my physical distancing, whether you like it
Yeah.
or not, you might be forced to do that anyway. So, I mean, it's so enjoyable. It just gets you into this state. Obviously, maybe if you're okay, maybe for me, I get into that
Mm-hmm.
state quickly. But if you're just starting, you will experience this later on. Okay, maybe if you're just starting, medyo hingal kayo sa una, but you can do it very easily, like walk, jog, and it's time on your feet anyway.
Uh-huh. I love it when I ask Coach Annie about running, questions on running, and she gets into this good vibe feeling, smiling and jumping and all that, and happy hormones, right? What you get from running. I
Yes,
go back.
yes.
I go back to Dr. Jason Lee. Doc Jason, okay, this is a very nice question because I'd love to ask this to you too. What are your thoughts about running in a fasted state? And I'll say this as real talk. I don't take breakfast. I only take lunch as my first meal. Sometimes I run in the morning. But do I take in more fluids? Should I take in more fluids um, to compensate for that when I do a fasted state of running, Doc Jason?
Yep. No, I think if you ask me, I do several of my runs in the fastest state. I think most people do like to put on something in their stomach before they go for runs. So in fact, they are again evidence-based based on your training objective. If that is meant to be a long Sunday run, people want to tap on the fats, to burn the energy, slow run, then it's perfectly fine to be fasted. But on another training workout, that is my hard intervals. No, I need the carbohydrates to produce a certain timing. Then probably you should load yourself properly and be ready to push for quality. So again, it goes back to the objective of your training session. There's again no one size that fits all. But regarding to your second part of your questions, in both of those contexts, I would still recommend that you should still be hydrated. I know fasted, but it can still be hydrating, because if you go for a run beyond an hour, it is sensible to get yourself hydrated, in regardless what is your training objectives. So because I do, especially I'm here, if I'm speaking to an audience that is a beginner, and I don't want them to say, oh, he talked about strain, I should stress the body, I should forget about the food and the hydration and strain as hard as possible. Yeah, so they will take it to the next level, a bad level, which I'm not advocating. Thank
I
you.
like that. So you can still do a fasted state. In a fasted state, you can still do your run in a fasted state, but make sure that you hydrate, right? You're that's the key term there. That make sure that you still hydrate, even if you've missed breakfast and your first meal is lunch. I like that. Okay, going back to Coach Annie. Coach Annie, um, you mentioned you run with friends, with students. I would see you in Santa Rosa, with your team, the national squad, and even the weekend warriors. But you put premium on techniques, right? You put premium on running techniques and running form. This question is very important. Running techniques, do they lessen the chances of one getting injured, Coach Annie? You're on mute, Coach. Would love to hear your angelic voice.
Oh,
Please.
sorry. Yep. All right. Okay. Yes, for sure. Uh, I can speak from experience. My background was swimming, and I took up running because I wanted to do triathlon, and then I just really loved running, and I wanted to do more of it. But I found out you can't just like dive into a high volume and combine it with high intensity if you have poor technique. So I got some injuries initially. I got some shin splints. I got some, all sorts of things. But then slowly, I worked on my form, worked on my running movement, my foot strike, etc. And then I discovered that this really can prolong your lifespan as a runner. So we start with that first. First, you do it right, and then you do it fast, and you do it long. Okay.
Okay.
In
Nice.
in you can always do that in cycles. Okay, and then you add and you add and you add. But you always have to start with good form. You don't want to strengthen the poor technique, right? You
I
want
love that,
to
Coach Annie.
strengthen the good technique.
I love that, Coach Annie. I think in any sport, you get the form right, results are good, right? Whether in basketball, in golf, in football, get the form right, results will come in. Okay, I will invent this portion. I call it rapid fire. Why? I ask a question, you answer in the fastest manner that you could. Okay, Doc Jason, this one is for you. In races, when one approaches the hydration station, how much fluid should one take? One full cup, a gulp? I mean, what's your tip or your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, again, I want it to be evidence-based. I don't want to say the one size has fit all. There are very good recommendations you could do. For example, weigh yourself pre and post after the exercise in the conditions that could raise, know your sweat rate, and plan how much you should drink, and work from -2%. If you think that you can be dehydrated more without health and performance consequences, you can go beyond that. But if you find that you need more fluid, then you drink more. Because it's really not advisable for me to say everybody should take 1 cup, because there could be few individuals,
Mhm.
1 cup every station might not be enough. There could be another group 2 cups, as so much. So weigh yourself, know your sweat loss, and hydrate accordingly.
Fantastic answer. Just make sure too that you don't eat your meals in the hydration station, okay? That's supposed to be a pit stop only. Okay, Coach Annie, final question to you. Rapid fire as well. Oh, this is a nice question, Coach Annie. I like this. I'm going to read it. I want to run my first 10-kilometer race. My target time is 1 hour and 20 minutes or 8 minutes per kilometer or even less. How many weeks should I prepare for this? I love that question.
Okay, just make sure that you are fit to begin with. So before you embark on any training program, have a full medical checkup. And then this number of weeks would depend on if they're really starting from scratch, or have they been running for a couple of months already and then they decided to register for a race. So if you're starting from scratch, maybe conservative, like estimate 6 months. Okay, 6 months, conservative. But if you're not really like overweight and you're, generally healthy, I think a good number of weeks would be 12 weeks. Okay,
Nice.
maybe
Nice.
4 months. Yes.
Nice, nice. Thank you. Thank you, Coach Annie. And to the person who asked that question, enjoy your 3K and 5K races first, right? Before you jump to your 10K if you're doing your first 10K. Enjoy running. Okay, Dr. Jason Lee, Coach Annie De Leon Brown, I give you my virtual round of applause. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. But before we let you go, we'd like to hear your parting words, your parting messages to our viewers, to our Filipino viewers who are watching us right now. I start with you, Dr. Jason Lee. Go ahead.
Thank you. I have a short one, but very important one. I think you guys are going through a very challenging weeks ahead, very difficult long journey for the past 80 months or so. So hanging tight. I hope these tips that will equip you the discipline to exercise as much as possible. It's not a good to have. I would strongly recommend that you do and deliberate work into a workout every day, every other day, because that will give you good physical and mental health. So take care. We are with you from Singapore. Take good care, guys.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jason Lee, all the way from Singapore. And before I let you guys go, Coach Annie, your turn, please.
Yes, I agree with Dr. Lee. Also, I think it's really hard to sustain the motivation. I've spoken with you about this many times before, Chicky, in some other sessions. Don't overwhelm yourself. Maybe some of you want to join a race and it's been canceled, and it's, you're not sure why you're training at all. Just do it for your sanity to begin with. Just do it for maintenance of your fitness and your good health, because that is gold right now. That is what we put a premium on right now. So don't overwhelm yourself. You don't need to do a 10K with every run. Just do it. For me, I just do it with minutes. So duration is a better gauge. So whether you're feeling good or feeling energetic that day, if you can do 20 to 30 minutes, whatever distance that may cover, that's good enough. And you can do that frequently. It doesn't have to be every day. If you can do that 3 to 4 times a week, great.
Fantastic. Run happy, okay? Run happy. That's
Yes.
what I think the major message this afternoon, guys. Dr. Jason Lee, all the way from Singapore. Thank you very much. Coach Annie De Leon Brown, all the way from Santa Rosa, Laguna, down south. Thank you very much. Okay, bye, guys. Thank you, Dr. Jason and Coach Annie. Okay, folks, loaded. That was a loaded first part of our show. And definitely, I hope you guys learned a lot from Coach Annie and Dr. Jason Lee. Now, we move on to the next part of our program, wherein we'll be bringing in dalawang athletes and coaches po that we hope you'll be able to learn from as well. Okay? So real talk tayo dito, kwentuhan. Let's ask how they are doing and let's see their thoughts on how running has evolved and how they have adjusted as well. Especially on this trying times natin on itong pandemic. So allow me to introduce our guest athletes. Boom! Your host has no hair. One of our guests has a lot of hair. Elite runner and international marathoner. Of course, siya nagpasikat talaga ng running dito, di ba? I'd like to bring in Coach Rio de la Cruz and joining him all the way from Canada, the founder of the Bull Runner, a marathoner, a triathlete herself, Coach Jamie Pizarro. Woohoo! Coach Rio, Coach Jamie.
Hello,
Hello,
Chi.
guys.
Hello,
Hi,
Hello.
Jamie. How are
Ricky.
you guys?
Hi, everyone.
Oh,
Hi, Rio.
okay. Round table muna tayo. Quickly. We'll go ladies first. I know it's past 12 midnight there, past 1 a.m. already. Coach Jamie, quickly before I ask you my first question. How are you doing all the way there in Canada?
I'm doing good. Medyo puyat ngayon, but for Gatorade, of course, I'll stay up for you. But yeah, it's been good here. I've been staying active and taking care of my mental health, which is prioritized highly here in Vancouver. And
Uh-huh.
so, yeah, managing with the pandemic.
Nice to hear that, nice to hear that lahat talaga tayo really trying to wiggle our way through this tough period, 18 months, 15, 16, 17, 18 months. Coach Rio, ikaw naman, where are you right now? What part of Manila are you in right now and how are you doing?
I'm here in my house in Marikina.
Mhm.
So far, so good naman kami dito.
Nice to hear that. Okay, so real talk tayo ha, Jamie and Coach Jamie, Coach Rio. Of course, people are missing you already. The running community are missing you guys already. Unang tanong ko, real talk. May notes ako dito, no? Major adjustments nyo in your running regimen when the lockdown, or should I say lockdowns, di ba? Multiple lockdowns happened. I'm not sure in Canada how many variations of lockdowns you've had there, Coach Jamie, but here in the Philippines, you have so many variations already. When that happened, what adjustments did you make in your running regimen and how did you improve? How did you make those adjustments? Mahirap ba? Madali ba? What were the things that you considered? Dami kong tanong, but would like to pick the brains of Coach Jamie and Coach Rio. Coach Jamie, I'll start off with you.
Well, over here, there were restrictions, not really major lockdowns. And so what happened was early on, well, gyms and establishments closed just like everywhere else, but we were encouraged to go outdoors and
Mhm.
exercise. So in
Okay.
that sense, I was very lucky. Um, we got to run and go outside as much as we wanted. So since March last year, I've been running 3 to 4 times a week.
Wow.
That's been good. I think the major difference, at least for me, because of COVID, is the absence of races.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I know that many of the athletes, especially the runners there, especially Coach Rio, I think we all feel it. The absence of having a goal to train for and having no program for someone like me na like a decade of always just having a race to train for, biglang zero. Medyo naloka rin ako. So, even if I was running 3 times a week nung March to the like last year, diba? I
Uh-huh.
actually gained like 8 pounds because of the
Talaga?
stress. Yeah, despite the running. It was stressful for me. Parang I felt lost.
Okay.
Yon, 'di ba?
Okay.
Parang biglang walang goal. Anong gagawin ko? Hindi ko na alam. But yeah, things settled and so I trained for a virtual marathon and things have been better now. But still, iba pa rin, 'di ba? Pag walang COVID, pag bumalik na yung
Virtual
races.
virtual marathon. Just thinking about it, virtual marathon. Hirap niyan. Okay.
Mahirap.
But Jamie, happy for you that you're allowed to go out. You get to run 3, 4 times a week, di ba? Tapos encouraged to exercise. Gusto ko tanong si Coach Rio, dahil Coach Rio, dito sa Pilipinas, it took a while, di ba? Bago tayo talaga payagan lumabas and restrictions, and nagkaroon pa ng confusion on magka-mask ka ba, pwede ba or wala. But ikaw, ito, lifeblood mo to eh. Running is your lifeblood. Ikaw talaga ang tinitingala namin in this sport. How did you adjust, Coach Rio? And real talk ulit ha, Coach Rio. Hirap ba
Mm-mm.
yung period
Mm-mm.
of adjustment mo?
Well, I think lahat nung nandito sa Philippines during the lockdown talagang mahirap para sa isa't isa, no? Especially for those who are used to train and run outside. But me personally, actually, I have two objective during that time. One is for my personal goal. Second is for my team's training. Kasi na-cancel yung UAAP namin so I have to look
Oh,
up also doon sa training program namin. So let's start with me personally. So yung ginawa ko lang, meron kasi akong objective sana or main goal for bago nag-lockdown. So I want to join international races sana ulit. So kaya lang naputol. So yung ginawa ko, parang yung mindset ko is gawin kong positive yung nangyari. Kumbaga, inisip ko na siguro advantage ito sa akin dahil mas ma-focus ko yung ibang kailangan kong improve on. So, I'm lucky because meron kaming treadmill dito sa bahay na ginagamit ko. Pero mahirap yung adjustment kasi ang hirap tumakbo rin ng treadmill. So, nauubos na lahat ng gusto mong gawin para malibang yung sarili mo habang tumatakbo ka. So, 1 hour to 2 hours, medyo mahirap siyang i-sustain. So, yung ginawa namin, sinabayan ko yung aking team, yung UP Track and Field team. So, nag-create kami ng online workout. So, pero naka-incorporate pa din kasi ako yung head coach ng UP, but hinahawakan ko yung long distance events. No? So, yung ginawa ko, naggawa ako ng online workout for endurance athlete. But yung before nun, sinama namin lahat kahit anong distance. So parang sabay-sabay kami para mayroon ding katuwaan ba. So ang naging advantage yun sa akin kasi yung mga weakness doon sa aking body, especially hindi naman ako masyadong ma-gym, no? More on running talaga ako So once or twice a week lang ako nag-workout. Pero nung in-incorporate ko yon, nakita ko yung results kasi nung pwede na ulit lumabas, yung time ko na dinidesire is actually na surpass ko. So ibig sabihin, naging effective yung training workout ko sa sarili ko. Of course, doon sa mga athlete ko, mayroong mga challenges kasi hindi naman lahat sila nakaka-attend because of internet connection and of course malayo sila and at the same time nag-aaral din sila. But personally, naging positive sa akin, ginawa kong positive yung pandemic para ma-improve ko yung sarili ko.
Galing paglabas mo na-exceed mo pa yung sinet mong goals and that's difficult because again, Coach Rio, real talk tayo ulit. Treadmill ka, di ba? It's so difficult to, and even Jamie, I know you'll agree with me on this. It's so difficult to watch a movie while running on the treadmill. It's hard to appreciate a series when you're running on a treadmill. But the keyword is adjustment, di ba? We continuously pivot. Okay. Now, ang isang hindi nag-a-adjust dyan, sa palagay ko, in my opinion, hydration and nutrition. Regardless of whether you run outside or inside, we put premium on that, di ba? Kasi hodang treadmill yan, kailangan meron kang lakas or energy inside. Let me ask you, I'd like to pick the brains of Coach Jamie and Coach Rio here. Hydration and nutrition. Can you share some of your regimen on that? How do you plan before, during, and after? Not necessarily a race. Okay, in your case, Jamie, you go 3-4 times a week running outside. Coach Rio, kasama mo yung UP team and your treadmill. I'm sure you still hydrate and look over your nutrition before, during, and after. Paano? Baka may ma-share kayo. Jamie, I go back to you on this question.
I used to be IF like you. I think you mentioned you were IF, right?
Oo.
I used to be IF like you for a few years until I stopped it a few months ago when I went vegan because I felt like I just needed the food. And so I'm happy to be back to eating. So like now, I'm a boring eater. I pretty much eat the same stuff every day. And so pre-run, I'll have an apple with peanut butter or almond butter. Yun yung variety
Sarap.
ko. Tapos,
Okay.
during, usually if it's a 10K run, I don't take anything during, just water. And then, but if it's a longer run, I'll take gels and Gatorade, of course.
Okay.
And then if even the virtual marathon, I had to have Gatorade. This is not super hard sell. This is a Gatorade talk, but I think even the Gatorade people know this. As long as it's like above 15K, if I don't take Gatorade, I will cramp for
Talaga.
sure. It's happened to me so many times. The few times that I didn't bring it, I'll cramp. If it's another brand that I tried in a different race, for example,
Patay.
I'll cramp. So I always have to have it. And then after for post run, usually I'll just have water if it's like a short run, and then I'll just have lunch early if I'm starving already. I'll have lunch early. I know you're supposed to have like a protein carb recovery meal. I'll usually do that for very long runs, like 21K and above, but 10K runs, I'll just eat a little bit earlier. Yeah.
Okay. I was waiting for the lechon kawali at the end of the run. Wala pala. Walang lechon kawali for
Wala.
Jamie. Okay.
May
Coach
vegan
Rio.
na ganon. Nakita ko.
Ako, ibang vegan. Vegan longganisa yung hahanapin ko dyan, di ba? So, Coach Rio, I jump into you. Ikaw ba? Gourmet breakfast ka rin ba? Or gourmet before running? Parang kay Jamie, may mga peanut butter pa yung apple and all. What do you take before, during, and after, Coach Rio?
Sige. Well, for training or shorter distance runs, I don't normally eat, no? Yun yung aking ritual. So normally, I run first. Kasi pag gising mo sa umaga, it's really hard to eat wala kang gana. Unless tatakbo ako ng long run, so kailangan kong pilitin. But of course, kailangan mong mag-sacrifice kasi if maglo-long run ka, kailangan mong gumising ng earlier kasi magte-take ka ng ng food mo. But for shorter distance, as I mentioned, hindi ako kumakain before I run. So nakasanayan na siya nung katawan ko. But after I run, yun, automatic dapat within an hour dapat nakaka-intake ako. Yung naging problem ko lang during the pandemic, yung output ko, which is my training, mas shorter. But yung aking intake ng pagkain medyo naging the same. So nag-gain din tayo ng weight, no? But during the time na inalaw na ng government na pwede ka nang lumabas, so nagkaroon ako ng chance nga na makatakbo sa UP, regular. So nabalik ko naman. So yun lang, medyo natagalan pero na-achieve ko naman yung ideal weight ko, no? Actually yung damit ko hindi na nag-fit because yun yung aking parang reference kung medyo nag-gain na. So yun yung naging motivation ko rin to get back, no? Of course, kapag sa treadmill, mini-make sure ko kasi yung maximum ata nung treadmill ko na nandito ay 1 hour 30 or 1 hour 40. So, naka-ready lagi. Meron akong water and of course, Gatorade. But yung ako kasi, alam ko yung sarili ko and meron akong guide. So, if I'm running a marathon, I normally, meron akong time. So, every 15 minutes, nagtitake ako. So, water and Gatorade. But yung first 5 to 10K, yung first 5K pwede kong i-skip. But again, yun yung aking parang ritual. So every 15 minutes, water, and Gatorade. So, kahit na umuulan or malamig, so hindi ko pa rin siya kumbaga ini-skip kasi one time ini-skip ko siya dahil malamig yung I ran a marathon in the US. So siyempre malamig, so parang hindi mo feel yun,
Hindi
nag-cramps
pa,
lang siya.
oo.
Oo. So yun, naging siyempre if you run, you have to observe also yourself, no? Kung paano siya nagre-react doon sa kinakain mo and then doon sa workout na ginagawa mo. So pagkatapos mong tumakbo during training or competition, kailangan mo ring mag-note kung ano yung mga naramdaman mo na feel mo within this kilometer.
Ganda.
Medyo naramdaman ko, nag-cramp ako dito. So, paano ko siya ma-extend? So, babalik ka dun sa coach mo para pag-usapan ninyong dalawa.
Gusto ko yung sinabi mo nung dulo, Coach Rio, na be mindful, di ba, nung pinalagay mo sa loob ng katawan mo, and then talagang practice ka, di ba? Hanapin mo yung balance doon. At ang key takeaway ko sa sinabi nyung dalawa, Coach Jamie, Coach Rio, okay lang pala na tumaba ng konti nung pandemic dahil tumaba ng mga 8 pounds si Jamie. Si Coach Rio, sumikip ng konti yung mga, and to think, extra small na yung mga t-shirt ni Coach Rio. So, it's normal, guys, watching us. We're hearing it from the experts here. Okay, I'm down to my last question. Sarap, no? Saya meron pa tayong part 2 nito. Ang sarap i-pick yung brains nyo kahit na madaling araw dyan sa Canada. Game na game si Coach Jamie. Okay. Maraming tao ngayon are looking for the right exercise, di ba? Nandyan ang skip rope, nandyan ang high-intensity training, nandyan ang calisthenics. But running is still top of the list eh. Di ba? It's still top of the list. Ako, in my humble opinion, anong pwede niyong sabihin? Someone who's thinking of jumping into running, trying it for the first time, a beginner, a newbie. Kasi hindi na namin kayo nakikita dito sa Pinas dun sa mga races or trainings that you do. What would you tell the beginners, the newbies who'd like to jump into running and enjoy it and at the same time eventually excel in it? Coach Jamie, I'll start with you.
I think you said the right word. Just jump into it, right? All you really have to do is just the following day, get your running shoes, lace up, and go out there and take one step at a time and see how it goes for you. I think the beauty of running is that it's what you make it to be. So it can be your activity for brainstorming alone or relieving the stress that you feel and the anxiety that you feel because of COVID. But if you also feel isolated, then use it also to connect with other people, of course, safely, and within the safety precautions of COVID and all. But yeah, that running can be anything you want it to be at that particular time in your life. For me, I used it to celebrate things or when I'm super depressed, right? And so what I want to tell someone who wants to get into running is not to feel pressured with Instagram and all these people who are ultra marathoners or marathoners and running fast paces. Just get into it. Do whatever works for you. Take it one step at a time. Read a lot online. Listen to webinars like this and talk to friends who are into running. And slowly, it will be whatever you want it to be, and you'll find success, whatever that means for you in running, whether it's to just run 5Ks every week or to become an ultra marathoner. You'll find success because that's what your goal is for yourself.
Ganda naman nung sinabi mo, Jamie. I like that. So sana na pick up ng viewers natin yan. Coach Rio, ikaw naman, anong sasabihin mo? Someone who'd like to pick it up and enjoy running.
Well, first, Chiki, maganda yung introduction mo about running. So, marami kasing gustong mag-run. But yung beauty of running is everyone can do running, di ba? Kasi ito yung first or second skill na natutunan natin nung bata pa tayo. And second, kapag lahat ng sports, na halos lahat ng sports, if gusto nilang i-improve yung kanilang endurance, yung pinakamadaling gawin is yung running, no? So, I agree with Jamie, no? First thing first, if I will advise doon sa mga gustong pumasok ng running is first, get your medical clearance from your doctor first, no? It's important to know your body, your limitations. Then second, you can get or make your goal and objectives. Ano ba yung gusto mong gawin? Bakit ka ba tatakbo? 'Di ba? Parang for health, or gusto mong ma-beat yung personal best mo, or gusto mong mas ma-improve yung performance mo from the previous one. So kailangan mo siyang iset para at least alam mo kung ano yung gagawin mo. But more than anything else is, sabi nga ni Jamie, don't feel pressured, no? Sa peers, sa ibang tao, because you are racing on your own. So I suggest for those beginners na mag-start, no, kanina na-discuss to, no, sa talk ni Coach Annie. So ako rin sinasuggest ko mag time base imbes na yung kilometer. So yung suggestion ko, if mag-start ka, balik natin sa distance, no, para mas madaling ma-explain. So para tulungan natin silang gumawa ng goal nila. So yung first goal mo is to run or finish yung 3K. So yung goal mo, ma-finish lang siya. So regardless kung naglakad ka or tumakbo, no? So yung second mo naman na step is, or yung goal mo, yung 3K mo, ma-finish mo siya without walking. But kahit gaano siya katagal. As long as nagkakaroon ka ng kumbaga improvement. So from run walk, ngayon straight run na. And then kapag naging comfortable ka na at sa tingin mo mas madali na sa'yo yung 3 kilometer with your target time, now you can move to 5K. So you can start 3K with straight run, and then after that, combine mo na yung run walk. And then later on, yung 5K, yung objective mo is maran mo siya without walking. So ano lang, establish. I think me and Jamie, when we started our races, yung TBR ni Jamie and yung trilogy ko, we focus on our newbies, no? Yung runners namin. So kay Jamie, first time marathoner. Yung sa akin naman, regular runner siya, pero gusto niya kaagad mag-jump sa marathon. So kaya nga nung in-incorporate ko yung trilogy, parang 21K ka muna, then 32K, and then 42K para ma-feel mo yung progression. Kasi yung gusto natin nga, sabi nga ni Coach Annie, yung longevity, no? Yung kumare buhay nung pagtakbo mo. So para at least less injury. So hindi mo ka bibiglain. Kumbaga ngayon nag-5K ka, next month magpo-42K ka na kaagad. So hindi natin siya ina-advise. No, so ideally, meron kang ako if yung mga athlete ko, lalo na yung pag one-on-one yung gusto mag-marathon, yung minimum requirements ko sa kanila is 6 months to 9 months. Kapag 3 months, medyo alanganin ako unless meron na silang background. But for beginner, I suggest 9 months yung preparation. Kasi yung 3 to 4 months, binibase ko siya, kailangan i-build yung foundation.
Galing. Sayang, we're running out of time. But, alam mo, gawa tayo sa pang ganito, Coach Jamie, Coach Rio, I'll reach out to you guys. Let's make one more like this. Promise. Kasi I'm sure a lot of people would love to do this. Magpapaalam na tayo sa ating mga viewers at meron pa tayong pa-contest. But before that, quickly, Coach Jamie, Coach Rio, message nyo sa mga Pinoy, no, na stuck at home at may pinagdadaanan tayo before we part we go our own separate ways. Coach Jamie, all the way from Canada, parting message to our viewers. Go ahead, Coach Jamie.
There's no better time than to prioritize your health and your wellness now. Even if you're locked indoors, there are ways for you to stay healthy. Actually, there's more chances for you, more opportunities for you to stay healthy kasi walang inuman sa labas or walang party. You can eat better, 'di ba? Hindi kayo puyat, so pwede kayo mag-exercise sa bahay, even just body weight. And then you're with family, so you can connect and bond more. So in every sense of the word, just try to focus on your health and your well-being and stay positive.
Love it. Coach Rio, your turn before ko kayo pakawalan ni Coach Jamie.
Well, for me, simple lang. Actually, nasabi na lahat ni Jamie. But for me, convert negative things to positive things. No, get this opportunity to improve yourself. Yung mindset mo dapat pagtapos nitong pandemic, you are the better person than before. 'Di ba? So, gawin mo lang maging masaya ka lang, and then use running as your kumbaga pang-alis ng stress, kasi meron kang makukuha, lalo na yung runner's high. Actually, shout out lang kay Heidelin Diaz, kasi yung childhood dream ko na first Olympic gold medalist na achieve niya. So yun kasi yung lagi kong runner's high. So ngayon magpapalit na ako ng bago kasi si Idol na achieve niya na.
Magbubuhat ka na rin, ha? Ang sarap ng ating kwentuhan, huntahan. Coach Rio de la Cruz all the way from Marikina, and of course Coach Jamie Pizarro all the way from Canada. And Jamie, special mention sa iyo, madaling araw dyan. Thank you for allotting time for us, okay? Coach Rio, Coach Jamie, ingat, stay safe, and I'll reach out to you guys for that running show that I'm talking about. Gawa tayo isa pa para masaya. All right, down to our final two segments, ladies and gentlemen. Ito yung questions about the presentations of Dr. Jason and Coach Annie. If you get the right answer, meron kayong premio, either the socks, the bottle, or the bag. Our social media team will get in touch with you kung paano nyo makukuha yung mga premio ninyo. And then at the end of the show, yung ating certificate of attendance, yung QR code, abangan po ninyo. Okay? So, I'll be flashing the questions. We'll be flashing the questions on screen. Unang tanong, yung mga ko dito, may premio agad. In running, should you inhale more or exhale more? Totoo yan, ha? In running, should you inhale more or exhale more? Type your answers now, and our social media team will check the comment box sa baba dyan para malaman sino ang nanalo. Monching Romano watching right now. Thank you, Coach Man. Thank you for watching. Tio, ano ba to? Tio, hello for watching. Second question. After exercise, lalabasan natin yung second question. Ayan. After exercise, to replace any fluid and electrolyte deficit, how much fluid should you drink for each kilogram of body mass lost? Medyo technical yan, ha? So I hope you're able to listen earlier kay Coach Annie tsaka kay Dr. Jason. So answer now, and hahanapin ng aming social media team yung unang makasagot ng tama. And then, third question. Maganda to. Dapat alam nyo na to, ha? What is lost through our sweat that is replenished by Gatorade? Anong na-replenish ni Gatorade? Again, what is lost through our sweat that is replenished by Gatorade? Okay? So please type in your answers, and then mag-reach out ang aming social media team sa inyo. Dalawa ang sagot pala diyan sa diyan sa third question natin. Dalawang sagot 'yan. So get it, and then if you get it right, we're going to give you the prize. Okay? So dito na tayo sa ating final portion. Again, reminding everyone, watch until the end of our live show, kasi at the end of this show, you will be flashing a QR code, and this will only be accessible at a limited time, meaning when the recording of this video is uploaded already in the Gatorade Facebook page, by that time, registration for the certificates is closed. So abangan nyo po at the end of this one, lalabas namin yung QR code, and of course, that very short survey that you have to answer. And as mentioned, if your questions were picked earlier, dun sa ating Q&A, and if you're able to provide the right answers, may premyo po kayo from Gatorade, the socks, the bottle, or the bag, and we'll get in touch with you. And then finally, so we're done. Unang episode, Beginner's Guide to Cycling. Second, Training at Home. Third natin, Beginner's Guide ngayon, into running. Our fourth and final episode happening on August 12. Abangan na ninyo yan. August 12, 4 p.m. Considerations for overall wellness. Okay? Si Dr. Molly Malyari and of course, Dr. George Canlas will be there as well, kasama natin. August 12, abangan na po yan. Okay, Dr. Molly Malyari, Dr. Jose Raul Canlas, August 12, 4 p.m. Considerations for overall wellness. Okay, so this is how we part ways. I say good afternoon to all of you. Thank you for joining us on our GSSI Webinar Series 2021, our third episode. On behalf of Marsha, of course, Sir Mikey, Miss Melay, and the rest of our friends in the Gatorade team, ako po si Chicky Reyes saying thank you very much for watching us, for joining us in this webinar series. Please, sa lahat po nanonood, stay safe, stay home, pray, and we'll see you all on August 12th. Bye, guys.